Hey, good afternoon, traders. This is Trader Tim from eminimine.com doing another Monday market analysis video. It's the 26th of April, 2021. And before I get into today's intraday trades, I wanted to start on a weekly chart of the ES. You can see the uptrend line that we've had drawn here for the last 3-4 months, as well as the extension the extension high to high and its negative 618% target that we have reached last week. Actually, two weeks ago, technically, we touched it, and we've just sort of been hugging along that level. Anytime we go beyond the negative 23.6, we start to get into that extended territory. And so, with the distance away from this trend line, if you look at back here where we're sort of riding the trend line compared to over here in this open space, we definitely have a risk of pulling back and making our way a little bit closer to the trend line. I wanted to point out a couple of interesting things worth noting here. If we go back to the pullback in last year, this time. So we dropped roughly 28% off of highs. Well, we are now roughly 23% above that February high from last year. So almost a one-to-one, the distance of the pullback from that high in terms of percentage is a relationship to where we are right now off of that high. We're getting close to a one-to-one ratio there. If you go back to some of the other pullbacks and you look at like 2018, the end of 2018, the pullback, and if you project that dip, kind of tack it on from that high before the dip to the next high, it's also about a one-to-one ratio. So let's say we just draw up the next traditional retracement from low to high. That puts us at about a 4,000, give or take. 39.54 is the actual 50%. A 4,000 on the ES would be about a 5% pullback. Now, I'm not coming into the markets at this point just looking for reasons to go short or fade. I'm just trying to prepare myself with things like the Fed meeting coming up this week, with earnings, a whole slew of earnings in the big names this week, FANG stocks, lots of tech stocks, so lots of opportunity for volatility. And even if these companies completely beat their earnings, I mean, that is what is expected at this point. We have year-over-year numbers that are, or at least last year's numbers, are extremely weak relative to past quarters, and so pretty easy for these companies year over year to beat those estimates. So that's already priced in, so to speak. So what will happen when these earnings come out? Will the market react in a positive way to positive news, or as we more oftentimes see, good earnings come out, but the markets don't necessarily react in a super positive way? So, wanted to touch on a couple of things here. I will be putting on a hedge here going into the Fed meeting. Last week, I had a short-term hedge on that I took off. Go to the daily chart here. And I wrote it down, closed it out on Tuesday at the close. And so this one I'm going to put on into March. I'll probably use the monthly expiration of March and do that in the SPY and the Qs, because we have the Fed meeting and some other potential for the market to pull back a little bit. If we go to, and I want to give it a little bit more time, and I'm going to actually pause the video and do a couple things here and come back just momentarily. Okay, we're back. So this week we've got quite a few earnings announcements. We have consumer confidence tomorrow. We have GDP, the Fed meeting on Wednesday. So lots of activity happening, which should increase our volatility in the VIX a fair bit as we go through the week. So another good reason to put on some puts, because those get increased with the implied volatility, pushes up the price of those, even if the price of the underlying doesn't move so much. So again, just using puts in the SPY and the Qs for that hedge, and trying to go a little bit longer out, just because I think we have some room for a healthy pullback. What else do we got here? Oh, the Bitcoin pulling back, and had a couple questions on that. If I go to its longer term daily chart here, we broke the extension that I had originally drawn up high to high at that trend line there, and we actually came down to the just traditional halfway back here at 47, roughly 47,300. So add a little bit more there, and we are below the trend line. I'll watch the 50% short here to see if we do get a stop on the underside of the trend line, but there's definitely a lot of momentum in the Bitcoin space, so we'll just have to wait and see how that pans out. If we get a strong reaction at the 50, we could sort of move sideways for a little while between those two 50s. So that's always something to watch for. Let's move to the intraday on the ES here. Pull up the 5-minute chart. And so last week I didn't have any trades Tuesday through Friday. It was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I had a couple things setting up and didn't get filled. And then Friday I just decided to take the day off. And so this morning it was nice to get a beautiful little double bottom to kick off the week. And so this is how I drew up the retracement from the overnight, or I'm sorry, from the prior day's low. So Friday, Friday's low at the close to this morning's high. And so we came within 3 ticks of this 41.75 long setup. And in doing so, we set up a nice little low tick at lows with this perfect little double bottom, broke the swing high, and off she went. If I delete this here, this is how I drew up the retracement long. There was no opposing short stifling this one. The 50% was way up here, so nothing sort of on the short side to push us down. So 41.77 and a quarter was the long entry. It was a little bit quick in terms of like the time that it took to pull back. Happened fairly quickly, but not too difficult to enter. And then just rode that up, trailed the swing lows here, and ended up getting taken out right here as we put in this little double top here, and then that was the swing low in between the double top. So that was a nice six-ish points there. And then we had the next 50% retracement was a low to high for the day. If I extend this up here, we go low, up to high, and that traded at the 50%. We then traded at the opposing short, so I chose not to take this first 50% here. Instead, I waited. I ended up taking the little breakout here that sat right on top of the first 30-minute range, and pulled back nicely, got an initial little bounce. We made this double top, so I moved my stop to break even, and then we ended up rolling over. I thought that might be the one to push us into new highs, but we really weren't able to do that today. We've sort of come up to this level 3 times now, and then just in the last 5 minutes or so had a pretty big sell-off back to lows of the day, and we're just kind of holding in that range. So if we look at the first 30-minute range, I'll go to a 30-minute chart so that's more apparent. When we form a 30-minute candle like this, and then the next candle, we have a hard time breaking out and staying out. At first, the first 2 candles, if you picture this second candle not closed, but price being up near highs, okay, we have the potential for a trend day. But then as soon as we fall back into the first 30-minute range, the next candle's inside, next candle pokes above and falls back down. The rest of the day, we're just there's not a lot to do. We're just trading inside the first 30-minute candle. Thus, that first 30-minute range becomes very valuable. If we go back to Friday, on the other hand, second 30-minute candle, we moved above the first and stayed above it. And then the third one just took off from there. So unfortunately, there weren't too many pullbacks that I saw um, early on in the day on Friday. So the 30-minute range is a very helpful way to be able to manage, is it likely to be a trend day versus a range-bound day. So we're going to be doing the live trading session tomorrow. I know it is the Tuesday before the Fed meeting, but I didn't announce it. Normally we push those to Thursday, but last week in the room I didn't make the announcement. So we're just going to keep it at Tuesday, and there might be some more fireworks going on this week just because there's so much activity happening. So you can tune into that over at eminimind.com/VIP. And if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Thanks, and have a great week.